We have already answered so many of your questions as we did part one of a two-part mailbag. That's, I think, the first time we've done it that way. But in order to do this, or to do it this way, we are getting to all of your questions instead of the 100 plus that we had from before. So talking about the bowl game, recruiting, all that kind of stuff on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Happy Friday again. This time I remember the day. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. If you missed the last one, which these are concurrently releasing, your question might be in the last one. If you were a part of the Leaders and Best, generally, you're in that one. If you're part of the Victors Valiant, you might be in this one. As part of the Leaders and Best, it's a whole convoluted thing. And nonetheless, this is a result to both me having the immediate crash after the season and then exacerbated by the charity event in which I ate 10 blazing wings, and my body has hated me ever since. But we raised a lot of money. Donovan Edwards came and met a bunch of people. I told y'all there was going to be a big-time Michigan player there. And Donovan Edwards came and met people, so that was really awesome of him. It's my guy, so I appreciate that. Anyway, we're going to get into our new Leaders and Best, featuring a lot of Victors Valiant. Starting with Mark Z at Mark Zimke. When it comes to the portal versus recruiting, do you think it's beneficial for either side of the ball to develop players for a few years to learn a system? Or does it not matter? I think you want to build the nucleus of your team through recruiting. It's kind of similar to what you want to do in the NFL, because it's one of those things where you want to build your team through the draft and you want to set the culture. I mean, you're going to have the culture built kind of with both, right? But you want to really build through the draft. That's when you get at least usually 7 guys that can come in and acclimate and all of that. That's how you want to build, because that's free, essentially. It's not, but that's free. The free agency is how you want to supplement. So it's kind of the similar thing, right? And that's why it's like a lot of people say at the draft, take the best player available. You do look at needs and all of that, but you try to take the best player available. And in some, that's why sometimes you see like, hey, we really needed a cornerback, so we took a corner. And then we ended up missing out on this other dude that ended up being incredible. And then the corner didn't really work out. Jeff Okudah, I'm looking at you. So I think that's where that's really smart to try to build through recruiting and then supplement through the portal, right? Because portal guys have to acclimate to your culture the same way that anyone else would as a freshman, but you aren't really planning on the freshmen as being the guys who are really moving your culture forward. You're thinking of your team captains, your senior leaders, the upperclassmen. So you want to try to get the good, the right fits to come in, like LinkedIn jobs. Try to go out and find the right fit to help your organization reach its goals. So that's what I would say. Perry Mitchell at Perry Mitchell 08. How much do you feel Sharon has left in the playbook? Even against Ohio State, Michigan never played from behind, and it seemed like he ran a relatively vanilla offense that he could execute and churn the clock. I think that's what Michigan wants to do, right? That's kind of what they did against Iowa as well. And I mean, even Penn State is due to necessity. I think I told you guys, I don't remember if I did, but I had spoken to someone inside the building and about Penn State. And they said, it's really funny to me that people think that we ran it so much against Penn State just because we didn't think we could pass the ball. It was more just predicated off of JJ's injury, and they just felt like that was going to be the easiest way, instead of getting him more injured, the way to preserve him, not just for that game, but for Ohio State. So I feel like they've been vanilla. I do think there's a ton more in the playbook. Even against like Iowa, I don't think we saw like a flea flicker. We only saw the double reverse once. I think the Alabama game could be one where like you can get cute in that game. You just has to be smart cute. Like, what are the things you've already run and what are the variations of those things? Don't run the Philly special. That's stupid. Run, like if you're going to run something kind of different, you do it off a variation of what you've already done that worked, right? That type of thing. James Kovalevsky at Coach_Kovo. Joel Klatt made an interesting observation on Coward's Show. Said Harbaugh is the most noteworthy coach to openly support revenue sharing for the players. And Jim is a disruptor, which could explain why the college football establishment works to label him as a cheater and discredit him. Thoughts? I mean, I think that's certainly a big part of it, right? Michigan's always going to be one of those schools that it's a lot of the attitude, right? Leaders and best. Michigan's got the only fight song that sings as if victory has already happened, right? It's not go blue, fight on Wolverines type thing. It's hail the victors valiant. You've won the game. The Detroit Pistons have come and talked to you. The 2004 Detroit Pistons have already come and talked to you. You've already won a championship. So I think with that in mind, I think that, and especially with just like the cultural arrogance of Michigan, of which I am a part, I'm not going to even sugarcoat that. I think that it makes it really easy for people to really want to see Michigan fail, right? Like if you're Miami in the heyday, or if you're even modern day Ohio State, people, even though it's like, oh yeah, you want to take down Ohio State outside of Ann Arbor. I mean, there's a lot of people that don't like Ohio State, but they're not hated in the same way that Michigan is. Do you want to, they want to be like, see, those arrogant pricks are the ones they're actually doing things wrong. We want to take them down a couple of pegs. I think that has more to do with it than anything, to be honest. Like, I knew it couldn't have been that way. And then with Jim Harbaugh, he's just a lightning rod in general. It's always funny seeing like rival fans being like, oh, he's out there talking and stuff. Like, what's one thing he said? What's one thing? I mean, outside of Twitter, like 6-7 years ago, what's the thing he said when he's, once he stopped being like Georgia coach and my Rocky Top colleague and all that stuff? He hasn't really done a heck of a lot of talking about anyone. And even then, he wasn't really, when he was asked about Ohio State and everything in his first press conference, it's like, oh, great team. He doesn't do a heck of a lot of like negative talking. But I think you're onto something as well. Brett Byer at Brett Byer 6. Jim Harbaugh's contract intel. Does anyone ever know what that man may be thinking? And no, the answer to that is no. I do think he wants to come back. He wants to feel the love, and I think he's feeling that now. But there's still some things to work out. Clark at Blue for Life 8. Do you think if Dante Moore were to commit to Michigan, it would ruin Michigan's chance for Bryce Underwood? No, I don't. I know Bryce would love to play right away, but I don't think that, especially if he picks Michigan, I think like he's going to know like you're not probably going to play one. I think he's the type of dude that he's not looking for the easiest path. I think he's looking for the right path. So no, I don't think it would, personally. Finishing us out in segment 1, the Rican Raider at Hamstand 87. The only one to get 2 questions in one show, or in 2 shows, I should say. Appreciate all you've done for reporting, and since you don't seem to be the swearing type, I'll say it. Expletive deleted. Everyone and anyone connected to those who slander Isaiah online. Thank you. I appreciate that. Real question, do we want Dante Moore back? I think so. I mean, Michigan's already reached out to him. He wants to develop. Not that Michigan's got a great track record lately of sending quarterbacks to the league. They don't, but nonetheless, I think it would be a, hometown kid coming back. Could be a hometown hero. Michigan's the first to offer him. Yeah, you made a mistake. Come home, prodigal child. Come home. That's how I would feel about it if I'm Michigan. All right, we're going to continue on. Got plenty more questions here in just a moment. But before we do, as the weather gets colder, the NFL stays hot on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's right, just $5. Just win one game. You get $150 back. You can play more, and you can have more fun. It's NFL needs more action to make it more fun. It's not like college. It isn't just fun for the sake of fun. It's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is super easy to use. There's different ways you can play, different actions you can get in on, player props, overs, unders, spreads, a heck of a lot more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and continue to kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. right, we're a little more truncated here. I do need to move a couple of these. Trying to do 40 plus questions. I mean, this would have been an hour plus show if I would have done it the other way. I think we're more balanced here. I gotta go quick though. I can't sit here and dawdle. Otherwise, this will be an hour and a half show. So our honorary Victor's Valiant for this episode starts off with Jason at Go Blue VA. If you know anything on Harbaugh's intentions, that would be great. I don't. Sorry. Wolverine Fanatic at Humish Fanatical. Not about Michigan, but maybe more causation because of Michigan. What is happening at Ohio State? Making so many players go into the portal. Day leaving? Changing tactics and schemes? Toxic environment? Not enough pregame dancing? Any guesses or inside sources? Well, I'll tell you this. The people who were like sources for me on Ohio State, certainly not speaking to me now after all the things that I've said. All the things I've said are, let me rephrase from saying true. Things that I've heard from multiple people who are investigating it, right? I've got disparate people all saying the same thing. And I am taking all of that and putting it into one, and I'm putting it out there. And they don't like that. Why are so many people leaving? Well, Kyle McCord has clearly been made a scapegoat, and as much as Ohio State people, fans, people inside the administration who want the otherworldly quarterback, this isn't terribly surprising to me because this is exactly what we talked about 3 weeks ago. That Ohio State has just one-upped its quarterback on a yearly basis. And then finally gets a guy that, I mean, I'm going to check this out right now because I just think it's kind of crazy to me that they're acting the way they have. So I'm going to look and see what Kyle McCord did compared to some others. So Kyle McCord threw for 3,170 yards, completed 65.8% of his passes, and that's in 12 games. Okay. I'm going to go back to JT Barrett in 2016, who was beloved for most of that. JT Barrett, who played in 13 games, completed 61.5% of his passes and 2,555 yards. 24 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Wouldn't you know it, Kyle McCord has 24 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. Not wildly different. 2017, JT Barrett, who played in 14 games, very similar numbers, 64.7%, 3,053 yards, 35 more touchdowns, 35 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. You start going back to like 2014, similar numbers for the most part, a little more touchdowns. You got Braxton Miller in 2013, throwing for 2,000 yards. Again, he was running the football as well. So that's kind of a little bit different. Passed for more than Terrell Pryor did in any of his years. Of course, again, Terrell ran the ball as well. The problem is for Ohio State is they went from Terrell Pryor to Braxton Miller to JT Barrett to Dwayne Haskins to Justin Fields, CJ Stroud. Each one arguably better than the last, right? So then they get a step back guy in Kyle McCord, who's still at least on the par of some of these others, right? Like, no, he's not Dwayne Haskins, who threw for 5,000 yards. His numbers, he didn't throw as many touchdowns as Justin Fields, but he threw pretty close to the same amount of yards, less than 100 less at this point, through 12 games than Justin Fields did through 14. Now, obviously, Justin Fields had the running capability, so it's not quite as electric. He threw in one less game so far. I mean, if he went out and balled out against Mizzou, which it does, probably not playing, CJ Stroud played in 13 games last year and threw for 3,688 yards, 41 touchdowns and 6. He could at least, with like a crazy, amazing game, get close to that number as far as yards thrown. It's not good enough at Ohio State. It's not. And the grass is greener, and they're going to broom out a bunch of guys and hope for the best. Bold strategy, Cotton. We'll see how it works out for him. Michigan 45-23 at Wolverine Wise. Interested to know your early thoughts on how Michigan matches up against Alabama on both sides of the ball. Still trying to figure that out. They're relatively similar in stats and everything like that. Alabama's pretty solid all three levels defensively. I think they're outside of Dallas Turner. I think that maybe their linebackers can be picked on a little bit with tight ends. Their front is very good, but obviously they also have allowed a lot of running yards throughout the year. In general, they've been run on in ways that Michigan is not, which says something because Michigan's in a league that most teams want to run the ball more than pass the ball. Very good secondary, I think, that they have. Offense, I'm not as scared of Jalen Milroe as a lot of you guys are. In part, I think a lot of people are shell-shocked by thoughts of Terrell Pryor or Dennis Dixon or a lot of others. I think that Michigan's scheme kind of helps itself when it comes to the rushing quarterback. Maybe I'll end up being spectacularly wrong on New Year's Day. Hopefully I'm not. But I think that Michigan's defense matches up pretty well against their offense. They'll still score points, right? I think that they'll probably get to like 24 points. So it's up to Michigan to find a way to keep moving the ball downfield. I know it doesn't feel as good moving from the Penn State game forward, but you have to understand the strategies that Michigan's had. Penn State, JJ was a little bit banged up, and he's been banged up from then forward. And so they've kind of limited him in the run game. The run game hasn't necessarily been what it had been. Maybe it kind of gets back to it. I don't know. This game. But and I want to see the receivers make bigger plays, not just the tight ends, but the receivers. Get back to throwing some crazy passes to Roman Wilson. Go up there and make a play. They need someone to kind of break out and do that, to be honest. JSV S471 16461. Do you think it's a good idea to try and get Dante Moore when we have Jaden coming in? And we're also trying to get Bryce too, though Bryce might go to LSU anyways. Yes, because you need to be able to field a team next year. So, and you know what? If it doesn't work for, if they bring in Dante Moore and Jaden Davis is better than him, Jaden Davis will play over Dante, or vice versa, or Bryce Underwood, right? Like, it's better to have a bunch of guys than none, is what I would say. And heck, JJ might come back. You might, think about this. Ohio State at one point had Justin Fields, CJ Stroud on the same team, right? They had Dwayne Haskins and JT Barrett on the same team. So, then Joe Burrow. It's better to have multiple. Someone's going to leave, fine. Bye. Just try to get the best guy you can. All the best guys you can, and then if some of them leave, then they leave. Bet Go Blue at Bvon K00. Is it true that Nick Saban hates Michigan as much as Sparty fans like to say he does? I don't think he does. I have not gathered that. I think he has a lot of respect for Jim Harbaugh. You could see that in the 2019 coaches press conference. They had their "Did we just become best friends" moment when Nick Saban went off on reporters, and then Harbaugh kind of looked at him and was like, that was good, and they both started laughing. I have a picture of both of them laughing, which I absolutely adore. And then I went to Disney World, and it was a really good day. Carter Carlin at Carter Carl 53947. Can you talk about Harbaugh's contract and how we are going to keep our assistant coaches and coordinators? I mean, supposedly 5 years for $11 million a year. I'd certainly Sharon Moore is waiting for the head coach in waiting kind of thing. So I would expect him to stay. And I don't know about Jesse Minter. That's kind of where we're at. There's some provisions that Michigan's trying to get for him not to go to the NFL, or at least go this year to the NFL. But you know what? Might not matter anyway if he doesn't sign before the national championship game, right? Got to get him to sign. Otherwise, having that provision doesn't make any sense. Darren Graham at Darren Talks Ball. What's the general vibe around the program right now? And what's the word on the O-line? Specifically guys like Nugent's health status. Right now they're off. So don't know. I'll see a bunch of guys on Saturday at the signing thing. Plan is to go. Plan was not to go, and then it was to go, and then is to go again. I don't know. So check back on that one. Michael Christmas at Mad Mike 72, finishing out segment 2. How do you feel about the reports of Harbs having to sign a non-compete clause for his extension, if true, of course? And that would be with the NFL, and it would be for 1 year. It's only going to make a difference if you can get him to sign sometime soon. Like, get him to sign before signing day with that clause. And then that way, at least people know, like, hey, I'm coming to Michigan. Anyone who says anything about it, the NFL, they're just talking out of their you-know-what. I think it's great if you can get him to sign before signing day. If you can't, then wins a national championship, he might just be gone anyway. Could be that simple. All right, we've got 8 questions left. We will get to that in a moment. But before we do, you can have a little bit extra fun. If you're going to watch Army-Navy tomorrow, and I'm sure you will, you're all fanatics. You want some football in your life. I know when I get home, I think it's at 3:30, so I'll watch that. I'm going to have a little bit more fun with PrizePicks. Now, what's PrizePicks? PrizePicks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. The easiest, most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports is just you versus the numbers. Instead of playing against a bunch of pros and sharks, people who do this for a living that just know how to take your money and beat you in every which way in the fantasy world. It's just, you pick 2 to 6 player stat projections, more than or less than. That's it. That easy. That great. And with basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball. With the Specials League, the league's created specifically for combo projections that includes 2 or more players from different sports or leagues. So, for example, if you're doing the NBA and the NFL, maybe it's Sunday and I don't know if the Pistons and Lions are both playing on Sunday. I assume so. You could say, hey, I think Jared Goff's going to throw three touchdowns. And I also think that Cade Cunningham is going to get more than 20 points. You can go ahead and do that. It is amazing. So testing your skills on PrizePicks this season is the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. If you've got the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few simple taps. So go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege. Promo code LOCKEDONCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy. All right, 8 more questions, so little time. 6-ish minutes. Most important question here belongs to Sound Kayak at TC Mike. When will my foot that I broke in March finally heal? Sorry to hear that, my friend. I've talked about it here on this show in 2011. It's now forever ago. I would absolutely love to be in the shape that I was in back then. But I was like, I have gained some weight. I went to a bachelor party in Las Vegas, and this is back when I drank before my allergy kicked in 2 years later. And then I went to a wedding subsequent wedding in Providence, Rhode Island. And then I went to Boston for 2 days. And then I came home, had a connecting flight in Michigan. I missed my connecting flight back. And then I forgot my wallet on the plane. So I was in Michigan. My mom bought me all kinds of bells and stuff. And I was just like, I came home very, very, very hungover and very like fat feeling. So day one, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go hike Runyon Canyon. Then there's a gym on Hollywood Boulevard that I went to in LA Fitness there. And I'm going to hike Runyon Canyon and come down. I'm going to run on the treadmill and I'm going to hit the weights. Well, I hiked Runyon Canyon and then I broke my foot, snapped the bone of my foot on the walk at the base of the mountain. And so that was in July. That was in July. I think that it was like November by the time that like I was like out of the cast in a walking boot for like another. So I feel you. It can take a long time on the foot. Aaron, 45-time Big Ten champs, Michigan Wolverines at Little Aaron forever. What percent chance do you give Michigan defeating Alabama? I'm sticking with 70%. Go blue. I'm gonna go with 60%. I would be 50-50. I don't like the, there's inexperience in winning the big games versus the big bowl games, that is, versus experience in winning national championships. I mean, Alabama can be beaten, has been beaten. I think that this Michigan team is special, though. I think it is a team-led team, team-oriented team. Okay, I keep on saying the word team. But I also think that I'm trusting a little bit in Bill Connolly's SP+, which he has Michigan winning 29-20. So there's that. Don Gall at Pigster 1964. Don, I'm wondering if that's the amp you're referring to there. Can Orji and Donegal be the perfect scout team quarterbacks to get the defense ready for the matchup with Milroe? I think Alex Orji is perfect in being Jalen Milroe in the scout team. I'm not going to add anything to that. I think that's spot on. Jonah Jacket at Jonah_Jacket. Any news on Harbaugh's extension and how long likely you think Michigan is to beat Alabama? I surprisingly like our chances. Obviously, you answered both of them, but I'm giving you an honorable mention here. Mike C at Mike C 12 28 92 27 96. I think I got all that. Do you think JJ is going to come back if they don't win the Natty? Do we need Dante Moore or a better receiving crew? I would like to see, and they might have guys that can catch, like they've got some guys. I would love to see them add Donovan McCulley. We haven't talked about him from Indiana. Very intrigued by Michigan, supposedly. And I do think that JJ very well could come back if they don't win the national championship. He strikes me, and I have not had this conversation with him. He strikes me as a guy that wants that stuff, the team captain, that type of stuff. But if he wins a Natty, I think he'll just be like, okay. But also, I think that he'd want to be kind of more in the higher end of the spectrum in the draft than being kind of like the 7th or 8th quarterback pick, right? So there's that. Trent Weller at Wolverback. If more head coach will, assistants stay, and recruits come. Yeah, I think so. I don't think suddenly Jim would take some people with him to the NFL if he went to the NFL. Certainly. Jesse Minter could be one of them. But yeah. King Hakeem at Hakeem of Wakanda. Is there a reason why Clemens doesn't get targets or playing time? He was injured earlier in the year. He was out there a little bit in the Iowa game. I don't really know, and I'm looking forward to finding out a little bit more about that as we kind of go along. Finishing us out, Phil 684-65790. Isaiah, what are our odds with Walter Nolan in the portal? I know that I think it was Andy Staples supposedly had said Walter, he would pick Michigan. I don't think Michigan's going to go, to be honest. That's just me. All right, that's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We will talk to you again on Saturday at some point. Peace.